For centuries, my father taught me that avians were vile creatures. They expelled my species into a realm now known as Scoria. He obsessed over finding a way back to Gaera, our old home, and taking back what was rightfully his. Little did he know, his actions would pave the way for his own creation to destroy him. After endless torment, his own son would happen upon a portal, bringing him back to this realm, and to the people who would help him end what my father deemed the Eternal War. We are the heroes of old, and this is our story.
A prophecy, a prediction of the future based on fairy tales. It's like a hypothesis with no evidence involved. It's pointless. This portal, like the one my father studied, is said to be a part of this prophecy. Or at least, that's what he thought. The last thing my father was doing before I left was researching a prophecy. It led him astray from being who he used to be, a kind and gentle man. I need to find out what made him go mad before something bad happens to him. If I can prove to him this prophecy is wrong, then maybe he will go back to being the man I remember. So there I was, trying to understand why he went mad while studying something so blatantly incorrect. It is said that a species of old will walk through this portal to begin his journey. Sounds kind of sexist if you ask me. Always assuming it's a man. Would you look at that? A man. Always a man. Never another gender. I couldn't help but notice his strange attire. And those eyes. Heterochromatic. Something I had never seen before. Well, until now. He announced his name was Kai and said he was from a place called Scoria, like the stories my father used to tell me. He claimed he was a prince, similar to the one in the prophecy. What he said, could it be true? No, surely not. There's no evidence to support this claim. At least, until now. His shattered purple aura was enticing.
Stand back!
The silhouette of Axton's knife suddenly brought me back to reality. This being, I couldn't let him be harmed. I couldn't lose my evidence. His aura, it seemed harsh. I had to know more. His story about a kingdom and wanting to gain power to rival his father was ambiguous and intriguing. Maybe he's not as bad as he seems. Though his intentions may be good, I explained his presence here will not be taken lightly by the humans. Long ago, there was a war between the avian and bursian species, called the 100-Year War. This led to countless deaths, and caught in the crossfire were the humans. To this day, humans still resent the avians for the war they entertained, even though they rid Gaera of the Imbursians. Or so we thought. Kai seemed to know nothing of this war, though he said his father mentioned the Eternal War. I didn't have much time to question it further, as our conversation was rudely interrupted when a knight walked through the portal, declaring Kai go with him. He stepped in front of us, as if he wanted to protect us. But why? What compelled him to do so? This moment made me realize we needed to protect him. Not just because of the evidence for the prophecy, but because even in the face of death, he still felt the urge to protect strangers. But who is this guard? And why is this guard after him? Every time I get an answer, I only develop more questions. Nonetheless, to figure out more, we needed to run. As we ran, Kai explained the night was born of fire. It was created by his father to serve in the place of knights. With this description, I came to the conclusion that we needed to douse him in water. The way they fight, it's abnormal, almost ancient. The techniques they used were like those described in the 100-Year War. The knight claimed his father wanted him home immediately. Kai expressed how he will only be thrown in the pit and tortured if he returns with the knight.
You know what he'll do to me if I return with you. He'll only put me through a life of misery. You don't know what it's like to go through that kind of pain. How could you? You're created solely to serve him.
Something came over me, taking control of my body. I didn't realize what I was doing until it was already done. I pushed the knight into the water and we all sat there for a moment, watching it sizzle. A moment after, a creature emerged from the ocean. He had gills where his ears are supposed to be, and was holding a trident that looked vaguely familiar. Where had I seen it before? He looked beaten and tattered like he had been up for weeks with no rest. It reminded me of Axton when I first met him. So I offered him a hand.
As I emerged from the water, I saw three beings standing in front of me. An elf, a human, and one that looked vaguely familiar. I can't believe someone would throw their trash into my home. The ocean is a sacred place to my people, and I'm the only one left to keep the balance. We were the keepers of the ocean, so now it is my duty to keep it clean. The human asked if I was okay, but how could I trust these people? I had only just met them, and they would trust me just like that? Do they not know what horrors this world is capable of? I declined the offer as I'm not ready to let anyone in just yet. The last conversation I had with my father was an argument. I didn't even get to say goodbye. I should have been there. I should have just taken the responsibility and talked to him about my duties as king. If I had just gone along with it, maybe they'd still be here. Or I'd still be with them. All I could do was stand there and run. I wanted to stay and fight, but when I saw Axel there, I froze. I couldn't fathom my best friend betraying me like that. Why would he do that? I trusted him with my heart, and now he's shattered it. How can I let anyone in again? Will I ever be able to trust anyone again?
Are you okay?
As I tried to speak, it felt like my throat was closing in on itself, and all I could muster was a sob. I felt so fragile in this moment. My raw emotion was pouring out to a stranger, but I felt safe. I've always heard that avians have a kind and gentle touch, but I've never met one. Yet somehow, in my time of need, she found me.
I'm Talon, by the way.
Caspian. I'm not sure why, but she followed me all night. We didn't talk, and yet she still stayed. How can a complete stranger be so kind, yet someone I knew my whole life caused a pain I've never felt before? Trusting again will take time. I don't know if I'll ever be ready, but I have to try. As we walked down the shore, We came to a laboratory. The people I met earlier were just coming out of it. The human came down and offered their hand again. I knew I needed to try to trust people again. I may not be ready right now, but then again, I don't know how you could ever be ready after losing everything. So I accepted the offer. Maybe they'll help me fill the void in my soul that only a true family could mend. Talon tried to leave after I accepted their offer, but I couldn't stay knowing the only friendly face I knew was leaving. So I asked her to stick around for me. She reluctantly agreed. Over the next few days, the group prepared for more attacks, but we also got to know each other. Talon has been such a happy person from what I can tell, but Kai thinks it's just a facade, like she's hiding something, and he won't stop staring at her. He also thinks her wings are a little weird. I just think they're pretty. Auxesia and Leif have been friends for a little over a year now. Apparently, he's Leif's errand boy because he felt indebted to them after being saved from something, though he doesn't talk about it much. And Kai, well, let's just say he's an asshole. Maybe it's the clash of our opposing elements, fire and water and all, but he really knows how to get under people's skin. But when worst comes to worst, I know he'll do anything to protect us. He reminds me of, well, that doesn't really matter. Though what really irritates me is that he won't stop talking about building a kingdom to rival his father's.
We have everyone we need to build a kingdom. A head guard, Caspian, a diplomat, Talon, a scientist, Leif, and Axton. I don't understand why everyone is so hesitant to join.
I can't believe Kai would think all of us would just want to join a kingdom where death is already inevitable. With a threat like his father on the horizon, I don't think anyone in their right mind would take on a responsibility like that. I can't enter a new kingdom after I just lost my own.
I couldn't enter a new kingdom after just escaping my own. I love to adventure, to find my mother and myself, to finally live. I couldn't confine myself again into performance role after having just left the walls of my own kingdom. Why would I want to throw myself back in front of the eyes of everyone? To be seen but not heard. To be nothing more than just an image of the perfections kingdoms strive to advertise. I couldn't be the perfect object of everyone's perceptions. Not while my true self was shut away. Not anymore. Not for a king who will never understand those around him. Or so I thought. I was not the only member of the newly formed group that was uncertain about joining a new kingdom. Caspian seemed to share very similar sentiments as me. He and I spent most of our time together. We rarely talked and mostly just enjoyed each other's mutual company. I didn't speak to many others at first either. It was hard to allow myself to open up to anyone and begin a conversation when I truly didn't know how. Leif, however, just made it seem so easy, and Axton and I seemed very similar. And Kai, he was a different story. He was intriguing and bursian, I believed, and so different than how my father used to describe his species to me. He is infuriating. Everything he says to me, it's like he's purposefully trying to get on my nerves, even if he ends it with a laugh. But there's still something about him I can't explain. Though Kai seemed to be unwilling to show empathy to those around him, something finally got through to him. After pressuring everyone into joining his kingdom, he came to talk to all of us individually. His attempt at sympathizing with me was lacking, but he knows nothing about me. Eventually, what was supposed to be a small convincing conversation about his kingdom's future, of course, turned into an argument. He accused me of giving ill advice, and that I know nothing about how kingdoms are run.
Well, who are you to give advice on a topic you obviously know nothing about? Commoners don't know how to run kingdoms.
Only an idiot would let a disguise keep them from recognizing a princess. Does royalty always need a crown on their head to maintain their role in their kingdoms? Because if so, I see no crown on yours. After I revealed my title, the conversation took a quick turn. Kai seemed to gain a respect for me that he hasn't shown for any other. My wings prevent him from viewing us as equals, but he's certainly making progress, as am I. I accepted his offer and began arranging my duties as diplomat, as my mother once did. I never intended to stay again in one place, but something about this place and these people drew me in. The first duty of mine as acting diplomat was to help Kai find a builder for our new kingdom. Our first and only lead was in a neighboring kingdom called Zohara. With this knowledge, our group set out on a ferry. It was there that we met someone Kai knew, a demon named Foros. Kai and Foros traveled together for months in Scoria, until they got separated and she was taken by the Veritas. Kai says the Veritas are a group of elite warriors who are relentless. From what I can gather, Foros is kind-hearted and means well, but is very blunt with her speaking.
Yeah, I've slept with most of them. They would definitely kill you.
Nonetheless, she decided to join us on our journey. While we were on the boat, I couldn't help but feel free. Yet still, there was a part of me that didn't want to trust it. It was on the boat that Kai and I shared a moment where it didn't turn into an argument.
Talon, I wanted to thank you for accepting the offer to be our acting diplomat. I understand the risk you're taking and the amount of responsibility that comes with it, but if it's any consolation, you have my utmost respect.
After a day's journey on the water, we finally made it. Though our main mission was to find a builder, I thought it would be good to bring up everyone's spirits and plan for a gala, as every new king needs a grand coronation and a gala. After getting to the town square, everyone split up to accomplish their own personal agendas. While Axton went with Leif, Kai, Foros, and I looked for a builder everywhere. No one would take on the challenge of building our kingdom as we did not have the money they charged. On our way to meet the others, I heard faint whispers in my ear. It was as if something was calling out to me. The whispering led me to an old antique shop where a bow laid on the counter. The bow looked vaguely familiar, though I'm not sure how. It felt as though it knew who I was and where I belonged. It almost seemed to be speaking to me and asking me to take it, like someone was trapped inside. I could tell somehow that this bow had been on a journey similar to mine. Like it was trying to find its way to the right people. Though both of us were trying to find the right people, I'm still unsure as to whether or not I have. Will they understand what I've been through and accept who I really am? I asked the shopkeeper how and when this bow ended up in their shop, but they only told us in a hushed tone to search for a town called Belmare if we wished to know more. Kai immediately decided to detour our return and bartered his way into getting me the bow.
All I want is nothing more than to be able to open myself up to others. But how can I be open with anyone after all I've gone through? This group makes me question who I really am. Do I even fit in here? Do I fit in anywhere? My whole life I've never known where I came from. The only life I've known is the life I've been told I was meant to live. A life of thieving. I've always felt like I could be something more than that. So when Leif found me that night on the brink of death and invited me to assist them in their studies, I agreed without hesitation as I didn't want that life anymore. I couldn't be put through any more pain. After Leif left the group in a hurry, I knew something was wrong, so I immediately followed them to make sure that they were okay. They wandered around town looking for something all morning until eventually they stopped at a house. I stood outside the door to listen to what they said.
Dad, I'm home. Why does it look so empty?
After a few minutes, I could hear footsteps running upstairs and sniffles coming from Leif. I stood in front of the door because I knew they were gonna need someone to console them. When they came out of the house, I could tell they were close to being broken, like they wanted to give up on everything. So I just held them, as long as they needed it. As they sat in my arms, I looked into the doorway. It looked like no one had been there for a long time. The house looked completely abandoned. Leif said they were hoping to find their father there because they hadn't seen him in years, and they left him in such a hurry. I asked if there was any other place he could be, but they didn't think he had anywhere else to go. The last thing Leif wanted to do was visit their mother's grave. After being friends with Leif for over a year, they still hadn't told me where they were from. Maybe it was because of shame, maybe it was because of some other reason. But after we visited their mother's grave, I knew that I needed to stay with them, to protect them. I would stay, not just to be there for them, but to go through whatever they go through. On the way back to meet up with the others, everyone was silent and all I could hear were my own thoughts. I'd never been able to trust anyone, at least not in the life that I knew. I want to be able to open myself up to others, but my initial instinct is to shut them out. Leif has been the only person I can truly open myself up to. When we met up with everyone, I noticed Foros had just gotten back from someplace else. She seemed like she was up to something. I couldn't tell if it was just me or if she was actually suspicious. I wanted to keep my eye on them for now. Kai and Talon came back without a builder. They said no one would take their offers since we didn't have any money. We decided to take shelter for the night and went inside the tavern called the Red Dragon to get some food and sleep. Leif and Kai went and ordered us food while the rest of us found a table. They came back and told us about a man who offered to build for us without any sort of down payment. His words were,
"Yeah, you guys will pay me eventually."
This seems sketchy to me. We couldn't find a builder all day and suddenly out of nowhere, a stranger reaches out and tells us they would build for us? Man, the list of people to keep an eye on is growing by the day. With this news, everyone finished eating and went off to bed. We planned to begin our journey home in the morning.
All I want is to create a place where I feel safe. A place to prove my father I am capable and worthy. To prove him wrong. On the way to Belmare, I sat on the deck looking over the railing. I watched the water while the wind blew through my hair, thinking about the future of my kingdom. I want to create a place I can call home. For as long as I can remember, I never felt like I belonged. My father never allowed me to do anything, and whenever I would get into trouble, he would punish me in ways people couldn't imagine. He would call me a disappointment, a liar, and told me I wasn't worthy of holding such power. I believe he's wrong. I am capable. I am worthy. I want to be better than him, more powerful. Or so I thought, until I met this group. My intentions were originally to be more powerful than him, but now, I think I was in it for the wrong reasons. This group made me question who I was and where I was going. Leif was the only one who originally showed me compassion. Caspian and I didn't get along at first, but we've grown a bit closer after bonding over our shared trauma. And Axton, I can talk to him without stopping. And Talon. At first I thought her wings were weird, but somewhere along the way, I learned to find the beauty in weird things. My father used to talk so ill of the avian race. She was the opposite of everything he had ever told me. She is. So easy to tease though. There's just something about her I can't explain. When we arrived to Belmare, the leader of the fairies, Eris, greeted us, paying special attention to Talon's new bow. She sat us down and told us of some ruins that held information about a prophecy that she believed crucial for all of us to learn. The ruins were hundreds of years old from what she could gather. She said,
"You fit the description of this prophecy. It was said that one day a traveler from another dimension would rise from a portal. He would meet a group of extraordinary individuals of the races of old, and together, with the power of their weapons and their newfound knowledge, they would take down the everlasting threat that is the King of Fire."
Before we left, I took special interest in their handiwork. They were talented in sewing, such simple designs yet so different from the local shops back home. So I asked if they could tailor clothing for us before we left. On our way to the ruins, I couldn't shake what Eris had just told us. It sounded like she thought it was us. but none of us believed her. Leif, being the curious one, insisted we went to investigate these ruins as the fairies worked on our clothes. And of course, they had their way. We came to an abandoned house that looked to be hundreds of years old. Leif said something felt off, but none of us could feel or hear anything. Axton sensed the ground crumbling and tried to warn everyone, but it was too late. The ground below us caved in, and we all fell. Talon, being the one with wings, was able to catch herself while the rest of us hit the ground. We landed at the entrance of the ruins. As we walked through the ruins, I felt a pressure I had never felt before. It was like a weight pressing down on me. We came to a portal bigger than the one back in Leif's cave. Under it were stone tablets of the prophecy Eris had just told us about. The portal gave me an eerie feeling, like something or someone on the other side was telling me to activate it and come through. Talon pulled me out of this trance when she called us over to look at more tablets. These ones had weapons on them. A bow, a trident, a sword, a grimoire, and dual knives? Each of us felt something pulling us towards one tablet or another. None of us knew why, but just the mere image of these weapons entranced us. We all looked at one another as if we were thinking the same thing. It felt like we were meant to be here. It all felt planned, like somehow we were all destined to meet that day in the cave. Leif decided we should take these stone tablets to study them further, as it seemed to be a crucial part in the puzzle that is the prophecy. Though most of us doubted the prophecy, we felt this was where we were meant to be. Leif seemed to want to prove this prophecy right for reasons I've yet to figure out. Everything seemed to be looking up. It all just seemed too good to be true.